This is HBR News number 499. RIP Pope Francis, UK court sides with the TERFs, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of this absurdity so that you're not consumed by it. I am your host, Brian, and I'm joined by Dr. Ranmarkham. Hannah is not going to be here today. She is covering at her other job. Most of us have to supplement our incomes, so Hannah works a lot and constantly, so sometimes it gets in the way of doing the news show. But she sends her regards. And you know what? That's okay, because we're still going to have a pretty good news show without Hannah. Despite Hannah, we're going to do our best.
Is her other job, to be fair?
Yeah. Her main job is the other job, not this job. This is just something she does because she cares a lot about it. But anyway, so we have a great show lineup for you guys this week, regardless. So please continue the conversations both in the live chat as well as the comment section once the video has ended and is posted to YouTube. On this week's HBR News show, we're going to be discussing the recent passing of Pope Francis, the recent ruling in the United Kingdom regarding biological sex. Comedian Tyler Fischer is blacklisted for sexism. Essentially, he's Me Too'd, and more. So stick around. It's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. So I talked a little bit about this article with Allison on yesterday's show. We were responding to like 4 different rad femmes, or, I repeat myself, just feminists, and talking a little bit about like the dating market and how upset women are that, men are going like they're not like keeping up with women's ever more radical leftist ideologies. And I thought this article is essentially a good, gives you a good idea of what's happening. It does have to do with essentially men are learning to not hate themselves as much, and women don't know what to do with that. So this New York Post article is entitled "Gen Z Women Are Choosing Older Men Over Guys Their Own Age, and it's not because they're sugar daddies."
Narrator's voice, it is because they're sugar daddies.
We will look at the article to find out. This could just be cope, as it is being written by a woman. But we will take a look at that in the patron show. And if you want to join us in the patron show, you have to become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com /subscribe, so you can join us in the Discord server. If you want to check out the Discord server, go to badgernation.online. And if you want to send us a message at any point during the show, please do so at feedthebadger feedthebadger.com /just the tip. I always get that wrong. And let me just put Discord up on the screen here so I can see the super chows that come through the Discord. So, and if you don't want to wake up one morning to find that we've been removed from the internet, then go to honeybadgerradio.com or badgerfeed.com. That's where our content lives. All right, so that's not enough websites. I don't know what is. But with all that out of the way, let us now get into today's stories. So, here we go. Pope Francis is in the news because he passed away at the age of 88 on Easter Monday, April 21st, 2025, just hours after a meeting with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, as reported in multiple sources.
88, you say?
Yeah. Yeah. His death, following a period of health challenges and recent criticisms of the Trump administration's immigration policies, sparked a mix of heartfelt tributes and internet memes reflecting on the timing of his passing. The Catholic Church now faces the task of selecting a new pontiff through a papal conclave, a process involving cardinals under 80 who will convene in the Sistine Chapel to vote, a ritual described as highly political despite prohibitions on open campaigning. Several candidates have emerged as potential replacements for Pope Francis, with 3 notable names highlighted in the reports. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle from the Philippines is a strong contender, potentially becoming the first Asian pope. Known for his pastoral approach and global appeal, Cardinal Peter Turkson of Ghana is another possibility. What are you gay? recognized for his pastoral experience in Ghana and leadership in
I mean,
Vatican offices.
if the Middle East counts as Asian, then the first pope was
Asian,
There was-
right? Yeah, that's a good point. Of course, they wouldn't recognize that. Okay. Cardinal, what was I? Yeah, of Ghana is another possibility, recognized for his pastoral experience in Ghana and leadership in Vatican offices, which could make him the first pope from sub-Saharan Africa. His strong communication skills are a noted asset. Lastly, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the current Vatican Secretary of State, is seen as a compromise candidate between progressive and conservative factions due to his moderate stance and extensive diplomatic career, though his lack of Italian fluency might pose a challenge for the role of Bishop of Rome. The conclave's decision will likely shape the future direction of the church amidst its ongoing ideological divides. So I just want to say I covered this just because it is something that happened. And while I don't particularly concern myself too much with sort of like spiritual leaders like popes or Dalai Lamas, as an example, I do think that it's significant simply because he was the most progressive pope that I know of in my lifetime.
Yes.
But go ahead, Mike, because I don't know if you have thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'm not sure to what extent I even get to have an opinion on this. I'm not even Christian, never mind Catholic. But I think every people and every religion deserves the right to self-determination, the right to in-group preference. And I think we all deserve a leader who will lead us to such, well, basics. Now, that doesn't mean our leaders should be attempting to conquer Europe or attempting to create and maintain a network of unaccountable nonces. That would indeed be going too far. But the least they can do is represent the people whom they are tasked to represent, and only those people. They at least need to they at least need to play the role of a football coach and go, we are a great team. We might be the greatest team in the world. And if we work together as a well-oiled machine, we can rise above the rest and be the envy of the world for now and forevermore, or whatever. And yes, now I sound it out. That does sound a lot like Trump. People like to call him a liar, but those are the kinds of lies he likes to tell, claiming we are the greatest at a particular thing when we're not necessarily the greatest at that thing. But that's, like I say, that's lying like a football coach lies. It's pomp, it's grandeur, it's fanfare. It's a whole other level away from sinister lies, like you're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccines. There are lies that boost people's morale, and there are lies that coerce people into getting killed. Do you see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
I really do hope so. And I, for one, hope your next pope is someone who takes the gloves off and makes no apologies and comes out guns a-blazing going, fuck you all, we're the greatest. Jesus is the greatest. Holy Mary, Mother of God, is the greatest. The Catholic Church is the best church in the world, and you get all suck my dick if you don't like it. All right, not that. Best not to say that last thing. That might not land in a good place. Leave the Pope's dick alone, especially if you're a small boy. We could all do without that sort of thing. But yeah, at least have some pride in what you've achieved so far. I don't have to agree with your religion to acknowledge that you deserve some fucking pride. Otherwise, what's the damn point? Deadly sin, my ass, by the way. Pride is the antidote to shame, just like shame is the antidote to pride. You got to find the middle ground. You certainly shouldn't be wallowing in shame to the point where you allow Christendom to be violently ravaged by Muslims and communists. And that is where Pope Francis failed quite spectacularly, like even worse than the Hitler Youth one, the Emperor Palpatine got. Ratzinger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Ratzinger? The guy who looks like Palpatine?
He went by Benedict, but his name.
Yeah. Oh, okay, Benedict. Yeah, that's
he shuffled a few nonces around. Sure, that was pretty egregious, but at least he didn't swan around trying to unite the faiths. Fuck that. That's not your job, Pope. That's the opposite of your job. Your job is to unite your faith. and your faith only. That means if there's a bunch of Muslims and Jews circling around your territory and closing in on your vicinity, you better make them find out what happens when they fuck around. That means you make like Jesus versus the money changers, and you crap that fucking whip. The same goes if you get encroached upon by me and my ilk. I'm another kind of heathen. I have my own personal spiritual relationship with a hypothetical higher power. I'm okay with you believing in an almighty super Jew in the sky, but I'm not on board with it. So if you see me trying to enter the Vatican City to throw shade on your religion, you have my permission to kick me up the back passage until I leave. I welcome it. Defend yourself. Purify yourself. Serve your people and only your people. Tell you what, fucking get yourself an Irishman this time. Someone who knows how to throw a fucking punch.
That'd be nice.
They've never had one, 2,000 years, 266 popes, and not a single Irishman among them, ever, despite being one of the most staunchly Catholic nations on earth. Well, now's the time. Seriously, get yourself a pissed-off Paddy with an unwashed ginger beard and the half-rotted remains of a home-knitted string vest loosely draped over his wiry muscles. A man with fire in his nipples and is not afraid to show it. A man who's more whiskey than man. Yeah, all right. I can kind of
see the Conor McGregor Pope, the fighting
exactly,
Pope.
Yeah. I can kind of see why they've never gone with
I kick ass for the Lord.
But they should go with an Irishman this time, if only for the memes. It'll be worth it.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
If nothing else, that is my opinion. I stand by it, and you can thank me later.
Oh no,
slancher.
I can get on board with that. An Irish Pope, I think it'd be great. Yeah, I mean, like the only thing I say is that again, it is always a tragic when somebody passes away, regardless. But he was 88 years old. Popes usually come in really old, so they don't have a ton of time anyway. It did bring about some memes. I am sharing one. When it comes to the timing, because JD Vance was the last person who saw him, or at least one of the last people who saw him before he died. And some people say that the reason why he's dead is because JD Vance challenged him to combat, and because he won and the Pope is dead, now JD Vance is the Pope. So maybe we'll have a Vice President Pope Vance, which will only make more Vance memes if that happens as well. But yeah, I mean, like the only thing I guess I think that the Catholic Church, and I'm not Catholic obviously, but the Catholic Church and any like religious institution, spiritual institution, Buddhist, Muslim, whatever, you all have to be wary of things that threaten to change what you stand for too much. And the Pope is, from what I understand, he was very controversial because he was more progressive than recent popes. He, blessed gay marriages. He complained or, condemned Trump for closing the border on a country, and things like that. And I think that, essentially, leftism is like entropy. It creeps in. It's like if you live in an apartment, and let's say that you keep up with things. You dust and you vacuum and you take out the trash and you do your laundry, whatever. You dust. Did I say that already? You keep it up, and then over time you get a little bit lazy and you sort of, you slow down on it. You're not crazy about it, and so over time, even if you're trying to be neat, even if you pick up after yourself, even if you're not a slob, over time your place gets messier and messier, and then you don't notice how much dust there is. That's basically how this could go. And for example, in Protestant churches, you have like, Episcopalians. I think they're like, some of the more liberal types, and they allow female priests and other things that have not been the way of Christianity for most of history. And in the Catholic or then there are churches that aren't even Christian to just look like they're Christian, but they're not, like Unitarians, which are not Christian at all. They just wear the skin of Christianity. You know, they're like the Ghostbusters 2016 of Christianity. And then you have like Catholicism, which is supposed to be really hardcore, at least like compared to Protestant denominations. And they are also in constant threat of, this kind of creeping in. And not even Orthodoxy, which, I am an Orthodox Christian, or I've been attending Orthodox for a while, since 2023, and even they have problems. There are debates where women in the church are pushing for female deacons, and they're like, no, we don't do that, and they're trying to hold fast. And one of the advantages that the Orthodox Church has is they don't have a pope. There's no like single person that is a leader. They have a council of church fathers who, debate everything, and it's intended to be patriarchal, but not in the feminist sense. Just led by men, basically. And there's always women looking to undermine that. And then there are the men who support them that are more progressively minded. So I guess all I'll say is that I'm a warning to the Catholics, like it looks like you're slipping into this trap. And it will be slow, it will be baby steps, but there does seem to be a creep, because even in this article, the 3 options for Pope are like progressive in different degrees. It's like comparing, Tories to Reform in that. You see what I'm saying? Like, or the Conservatives of Canada, or a Rhino in the States. And so this is going to be an issue, I think. If you want to maintain the integrity of the church. I mean, no one's saying you have to be Catholic, but if you're going to be Catholic, be Catholic. Don't compromise that. So, anyway, but we'll see what happens. I mean, again, I don't think that these kinds of people should have the amount of influence that they have in the world, but they do, unfortunately. So this may cause some issues in some other way, but we'll see. So I guess we'll see what they decide on. And yeah, I was going to make a joke and I can't remember what it is now, but let's move on to the next story. Speaking of jokes, and let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. So, okay. I wanted to talk about the UK ruling, which is the next story. Okay. And I was like, well, how do I find a picture that represents this to use as an image? Right. And I was like, I'll just put protests in Google. And it's all women, like almost every protest image that you Google will just come up a women's march or, wage gap or something. So this is just a generic protest image that I'm using. Obviously AstroTurf, together we can end male violence against women. But anyway, that's not really the story. This is just a backdrop. So on April 16th, 2025, the UK Supreme Court issued a landmark ruling stating that the legal definition of woman and sex under the Equality Act of 2010 refers exclusively to biological sex, not gender identity, thereby excluding transgender women with gender recognition certificates, I guess that's a thing they have in the UK, from being legally recognized as women under this law. The unanimous decision by 5 judges came after a legal challenge by the gender critical group for Women Scotland, backed by figures like J.K. Rowling, who argued that the Act's definition of a woman should be limited to those born biologically female. The court clarified that while transgender individuals are still protected against discrimination under the Act's gender reassignment provision, the terms woman and sex are tied to biological definitions, not legal gender recognition. The ruling has sparked varied reactions. Gender-critical activists, including Rowling, celebrated it as a victory for protecting women's rights and single-sex spaces, with the UK government endorsing the decision for providing, quote, clarity and confidence, end quote, in maintaining biological distinctions. However, transgender rights groups like Scottish Trans, expressed shock. Are they wearing kilts or skirts? Expressed shock, arguing that the decision reverses 20 years of legal understanding and could have concerning consequences for trans individuals, despite assurances of continued anti-discrimination protections. The ruling has reignited debates over transgender rights in the UK, prompting calls for legislative reform to address gender recognition laws while reinforcing protections for biological women in specific contexts like sports and healthcare. So they have decided the TERFs win is basically what this is. But I assume, Mike, you have something to say about this. Okay.
Yeah, let's not delude ourselves into thinking this is a win or a victory for anyone. I'm sure we all remember the famous quote from a certain literally who, in the game of patriarchy, women are not the opposing team, they are the ball. Well, in the war between feminists and feminists, there isn't even a ball. Everyone just gathers in a field, shits into their own fists, and then flings it into the crowd, and they don't care who it hits. There are no winners. There are only the people who get hit by the shit. And it's usually men. In this case, it's the men wearing dresses. You may think we're allowed to call them that now, men in dresses, but I bet you when the rubber meets the road, we're not allowed to call them that. If they perceive it as a hate crime, it still is. You know, for all the reports I've seen about this ruling, not a single one has even skated around what it means for trans men. That's
Yeah, I actually looked into that.
It's woman to man, or should I say woman to, I guess, woman in trousers. Oh wait, women could already wear trousers. I guess women with short hair. No, women could already have short hair. All right, women with zipper tits. No one has explained to me if women with zipper tits can still call themselves men, or what has changed with regard to the legal definition of man. It just hasn't come up. I don't know if that's because the Supreme Court didn't rule on it because they don't give a shit, or if it's just that no one is reporting on that detail because no one gives a shit. And you can sort of see why it's so uncontentious. It's because no one is rewarded for being a man or for pretending to be a man. No one gets any legal privileges for being a man. Not even a trans man. Yes, you can benefit from DEI hiring quotas for being a trans man, but you already could for being a woman. Women already have all the benefits that trans people get. You know, many dissidents in our ranks will tell you that trans people are at the very top of the woke hierarchy, but they're not. Women are. I mean, gay people are higher than straight people, but gay women are even higher. Non-whites are higher than whites, but non-white women are even higher. So-called non-binaries are right up near the top, but a non-binary who's clearly a woman will win in a dispute against a non-binary who's clearly a man. Every time. People will clutch at every straw until it comes to the crunch when it's man versus woman, and then woman wins. These unconscious biases will bubble up at a moment's notice and gush over the rim of any of these conscious points of ideological dogma. Everyone knows at this point, whether they admit it or not, everyone can see that women are given preferential treatment. Everywhere from the bedroom to the highest court in the land. It got to the point where it became so obvious that women are first-class citizens that male criminals figured out that they could just throw on a wig and a dress and call themselves women, and they could get away with committing crime, or at least get more lenient sentences for the same crimes. And honestly, I don't even blame them. They want to be treated like first-class citizens under the law. Why wouldn't they? If putting on a wig and calling themselves Shirley gets them a reduced sentence in a women's prison, why wouldn't they do that? So it became obvious to everyone that these filthy second-class citizens are gaming the system so as to be treated like first-class citizens, and we can't have that. Pardon, it's a hideous miscarriage of justice that these unspeakable, unmentionable peasants have found a way to climb up the caste system from second to first. And that does it. We're officially not letting you do that anymore. Meanwhile, I'm standing here at the council meeting, like the guy in the Norman Rockwell painting. I'm standing here with my hand up, stretched as high as I can get it, waiting for someone to call on me so I can say, hey, this caste system thing, the one you are all but admitting that we have in this country, while we're on the subject of miscarriages of justice, I think that might be one. I think that might be a massive one. I could have given you a way of solving this problem that wouldn't piss off the trans activists. All you had to do was not treat men like second-class citizens. And then, right, men wouldn't feel the need to pretend to be women because they wouldn't have the massive incentive to do so. And then everyone looks at me like I'm a dog speaking Norwegian with his dick in his mouth. But what are you talking about? This is a patriarchy. It's men who are the first-class citizens. Everyone knows that. Well, I think the trans men would beg to differ because everyone's out here arguing endlessly about what it takes to ascend to the holy status of woman, while the trans men are going, hey, do I matter? Does my legal status matter? No, it does not. You're now discovering what the cis men have known for their whole lives. The moment you pass as a man, nobody gives a shit about you or your human rights. Everyone fucking hates you. Everyone blames you for everything, and your life is a lonely, draining, desperately depressing nightmare, and you're probably going to kill yourself. We tried to warn you, but you couldn't hear us because we were censored and shadow banned while you were lied to from every corner of the earth, and they're still lying to you. The TERFs, the J.K. Rowlings of the world, are out here telling you quite explicitly, we hate men. We hate everything men do. We hate everything men are, and we want them destroyed. And the intersectionalists are responding, so you're saying you hate trans people? Meanwhile, the intersectionalists are out here telling you quite explicitly, we hate men. We hate everything men do. We hate everything men are, and we want them destroyed. And the TERFs are responding, so you're saying you want to erase women? I don't know what the fuck we're supposed to do, folks. It's impossible to break the programming of one group of feminists. To break the programming of two warring factions of feminists is double infinity impossible. The only way we win this is if both of these groups die out, if they both eliminate themselves from the gene pool. And because there's so many of them, if that happens, the vast majority of our very civilization will have eliminated itself from the gene pool. Arguably, this is already happening. So, yeah, we're doomed. I wish I had a solution. Oh, wait, I do. Dismantle the fucking caste system and stop treating men as second-class citizens. But that's just a crazy pipe dream. The vast majority of the general populace is engaged in a war between the so-called left wing and the so-called right wing, which are also just two different factions of gynocentrists, both arguing endlessly amongst themselves about what is the best way to enslave men and pamper women forever. The right is constantly infighting on the small details, and the left is constantly infighting on the small details. But the one thing they all agree on is weak men create hard times. If anyone pokes their head out of the water and says, maybe women, like weak women perhaps, like sort of sometimes create the hard times. No, never. How thoroughly dare you? Boo, boo this man. Cast him into the flames. So yeah, we are in fact doomed, and doomed is all we are. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I once again hope you are laughing at this absurdity so that you are not consumed by it. And if so, I admire your resolve, whoever you are. Lord knows my own resolve is hanging on by a thread at this point. Best of luck. Drink responsibly. and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so I looked into it, and the ruling also applies to transgender men, but apparently like biological men didn't give a shit enough to complain about it, because transgender men literally, I guess biological men just don't care about transgender men. So they didn't complain, but it does apply. So it's not like they only did it one way, but the news only goes one way, because there is no male version of J.K. Rowling making a stink out of it. So, but it is what it is. You know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, especially if it's a woman. So that's the ruling, and I don't know what it means, except that essentially, like, there was a real conversation about men's issues that was happening, and then the trans thing happened, and now we have to deal with that because it's like louder and more, I don't know, annoying than just talking about, like, you know, cutting off babies' body parts, baby boys, and you know, separating children from their fathers and breaking up families and all of that. Just had to take a back seat because there were men in dresses in women's bathrooms, and we had to address that. So now that's sort of been addressed. I assume that this is far from over, and that there will be more of a, you know, a mountain of crap being made of it. But that is, I mean, it is sort of like, maybe this is the Trump effect. I know when Trump got in office, one of the first things he said is, you know, the federal government will only recognize male and female. And like Thanos snapping his fingers, trans people were just turning into dust, like, everywhere, because that's what they told us. They said, if you don't acknowledge us, you're erasing us, you're genociding us. So it's almost like they understand that the whole concept is just like, you know, using a certain words and expressing ideas. And if you just stop using those words and stop having those ideas, then those things just disappear. But anyway, I want to know what you guys think. So let us know what you guys think about this story in the comments. And we're going to move on to the next one. So I like to call this one, just ask her, what's the worst that could happen, bro? So the worst she can do is say no. All right. In a surprising move, Fox has blacklisted and thrown out a recurring guest of their talk shows. Comedian Tyler Fischer, a frequent guest show on the show Gutfield, was thrown out of the studio and told never to return after a female staffer claimed he sexually harassed her. Fischer says that the events did not play out that way, stating, quote, "I introduced myself. I said, 'Hey, I'm Tyler. I need to get going to the show to film, but would you ever get coffee sometime?' I asked if she'd like to get coffee another time, and she said yes. That's what prompted me to ask her about exchanging contact information, which was also consensual." End quote.
Not coffee, no.
No.
Whatever you do, don't ask for it in an elevator.
Yeah, definitely. I find you really interesting. And moments later, security confronted him and escorted him out of the building. Fisher took to social media later, stating, quote, "It is not illegal or against any rules at Fox to ask a grown adult for coffee. But in the woke mind virus world, any advance by a man is labeled as some kind of toxic masculinity. It is beyond tragic to see men hide away in fear. I, for one, will not allow it to happen to me." End quote. An unnamed source claiming to have knowledge of the situation says things played out differently, stating the exchange wasn't friendly and that Fisher violently grabbed the woman's phone to add his number before returning it and demanding to know she had the number now, end quote. Representatives at Fox have declined to comment on the situation. The female staff member at the center of the incident has gone unnamed, and Fisher himself is currently thinking over legal action against Fox. Do you guys know who this guy is? He's the guy who did the Jordan Peterson impressions that were pretty good. Pretty funny guy. He was also a guy that famously got a bunch of interviews because he was somebody who was very talented and was trying to get into doing comedy, stand-up, acting, but they wouldn't give him any work because he was white. They told him, "We think you're great, but you're white, so you're a white dude." So he couldn't get work. And that's sort of like what started him down this road of like working for these smaller companies. And I guess he eventually got like a spot on Gutfield. Now, the only thing I will say about this is something that I've been saying. Um, though this incident is not necessarily proof that, you know, like uh even, you know, right-wing women are bad or whatever. They're all feminists, guys. Like, they're all feminists. Like, that's all it is. And the other thing is, I think it's because he's unattractive to her. You know why? Because he's short. He's like 5'0". So I think that's probably what it was. I think that he was somebody that was beneath this woman's status, asked her out. She was kind to him, I guess, turned him down or even showed some interest, but ultimately weaponized the entire company against him because because she could. And this is like an absolute product of the Me Too movement and of the fact that everybody is feminist. Fox News is feminist just as much, you know, as like any other, like The Guardian or Slate or whatever. There's no difference. So you're not safe in some other realm that claims to be on your side if there are in fact feminist women there, which there's a very good chance there are, because that is the normal state of things. That's the normal state. So it's the default setting. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Whenever anyone calls you an incel, gentlemen, whenever anyone calls any man or any adolescent an incel, do bear in mind what is required of you as a man to not be an incel. What is required of any given man to ascend from the oubliette of inceldom. You can probably draw your own picture, and it's a picture of what we're talking about in this story. You are, in fact, damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. I mean, yes, you could just do your own thing. You could just work on yourself and work on your craft and wait for as long as it takes until an eligible woman admires your craft from afar and falls for you enough to make the first move, an unambiguous first move where they don't just play games and play with their hair and shit, and they don't just expect you to make the first move. They actually tell a man that they're attracted to him. I'm not saying it's impossible. It can happen if you've put in the work and you're pretty damn lucky and you're reasonably tall or whatever. But otherwise, you as a man are an incel by default, apparently from the age of 13 and onwards.
Yeah.
By the time your balls have even begun to drop, you are categorized as a form of domestic terrorist, namely an incel, a pubescent male who has not declared himself asexual and has not yet, or not in recent memory, been blessed with the healing touch of the holy body of womanhood. Well, this is a story all about how his life got flipped upside down when he tried to unbecome that kind of terrorist cell by begging a woman to save him from the incels. I don't think I need to elaborate any further, but I will. This is the average man's life in a nutshell, or rather, two nutshells, I guess. If you are not blessed by the sexual approval of a woman, you are an enemy of the state. And so you do whatever you can to achieve the sexual approval of a woman. And in doing so, you become an enemy of the state. How dare you not be liked by women? How dare you try to be liked by women? Well, pardon my balls, what the giddy fuck are men supposed to do? It's like trying to use a shower, a cheap, shoddy shower dial, where there's like 0.5 millimeter of difference between as cold as liquid nitrogen and as hot as molten tungsten. This man tried to turn the dial to molten tungsten for like a fraction of a second, and his life was destroyed in an instant. Many such cases. So my advice, and I don't think this is unreasonable of me, is to keep that dial squarely in the region of liquid nitrogen at all times for the foreseeable future. Stay the ever-loving fuck away from women unless and until they show unambiguous interest in you and they can demonstrate that they deserve your presence and your attention. And if that never happens, so be it. In the meantime, if anyone calls you an incel, tell them with growing confidence and strength in the air, I am not involuntarily celibate. I do not give a wayward chip of a shit if I ever have sex with a woman. They can go fuck themselves. That doesn't make me involuntarily celibate, and it doesn't make me voluntarily celibate either. I am not basing any of my life choices over whether or not I have sex with a woman. I do not give a dingo's kidney of a fuck if any of these sweaty harlots grace me with their fucking fanny batter. Believe it or not, I have determined that there is more to life than getting a dubious recipe of salty shrimp paste wrapped around my dick. Live your life, gentlemen. Live it without women. Perhaps it's worth pointing out that women are attracted to men who live their own lives, that women are attracted to men who do not simp for women, but that too would be a distraction. Live your life for yourself and not because it attracts women. Live your life for yourself for its own sake. And if it happens to attract women, enjoy being the one who gets to choose. Enjoy being the one who gets to tell women to fuck off and pound sand if they don't live up to your expectations. You are the prize.
There you
You
go.
were always the prize. Act like it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
All right. I got a super chow from Meredith G for $5. I'm going to read it exactly as it's written, but I do think that she meant to say something else a little bit. HBR News number 499, Honey for the Badgers. Weak men make hard times because they don't have the strength to tell stupid and crazy mean to back the fuck of and shut up. I know that you're probably typing in a hurry, but I don't know exactly what you wanted to say. But yeah, I think I get it. And I think that there's some truth to that. I think that there is such a thing as a weak man that allows bad times to happen. And I know that that pisses people off, but if you don't look around you and look at who's running things, then you're not able to see, that is the problem. There are weak men in power, and they're the ones that create the hard times.
That's weak men allowing hard times. Allow and create are completely different verbs. The people creating the bad times are the women. If men are just allowing it, then they're not creating it. If anything, it's not even weak women, it's strong women who happen to be cunts.
You could do that too. But thank you for the super child, Meredith. All right. So yeah, I mean, I guess Tyler, this is the thing too, is that a lot of these, Tyler was the victim of Me Too. He experienced this kind of leftist oikophobic culture when he wasn't able to get work and probably still can't get work. And he thought he was safe in some other environment, but he wasn't, because what these guys are not getting is that all of this is downstream from modern women and their attitudes. And so that's the root of it. Like, people talk about anti-whiteism and, and other factions and other things that are happening, but those are all downstream from this problem we have with modern women. This problem of things that came from, the sexual revolution, the feminist, let's say, theory or conjecture, and all of it comes from that. So, because if it weren't for that, then there would be more men that would not permit things to get this far, and they would just step in and do something. Mary G says in the comments, she corrects herself and says, weak men make hard times by no telling stupid and crazy women to back off and shut the fuck up. I think she made another typo, but it's okay. I get it. You don't have to send more to any more super chows to correct it. But yeah, I mean, feminism is the root of all of this. It's the root of evil. And maybe there's something even older than that we didn't call it feminism, but it was that revolutionary
It's called women,
spirit.
Brian. It's called women.
Okay, it's women.
Like, it's not men's fault for not telling women to shut the fuck up. It's women's fault for not shutting the fuck up.
Yeah, so for sure. All right. So anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I'm gonna move on to the next story. So we're gonna be talking about Carmelo Anthony. And oh wait, this is the wrong Carmelo Anthony. I'm sorry. This is that was the basketball player. That's not who we're talking about. Okay. Carmelo Anthony, his mother. So okay, these last two stories, they're being talked about in the news now. But I want to talk about it in a slightly different way. So I'm going to talk about the stabbing of Austin Metcalf by Carmelo Anthony, but I'm not going to talk about it in the way that everyone else has. I think all that other stuff is kind of like, I mean, to me, it's obvious like how things went down. But what I'm looking at here is the way the media is treating the story. Okay, and in particular, where they choose to focus. So I'm going to read this story and then the next story because they're both related. I picked them both for the same reason. And so we can see this relationship. So Carmelo Anthony's mother speaks out. Kayla Hayes, the mother of Carmelo Anthony, spoke publicly for the first time since her 17-year-old son's arrest for the fatal stabbing of Austin Metcalf at Frisco Track Meet on April 2nd, 2025, during a press conference organized by the Next Generation Action Network on April 17, 2025. Okay. Hayes expressed that her family has been, quote, under attack, end quote, following the incident, facing death threats, harassment, and the spread of misinformation on social media, which she said endangered her family, including her 3 younger children and husband, as well as those involved in the investigation. She emphasized that her family did not deserve such treatment, denied receiving any funds from a crowdfunding account for Carmelo's legal defense, and highlighted the emotional toll that it had on her, noting her husband had to take leave of absence from work due to the threats. Hayes also addressed the need to correct misinformation about the case, reflecting the family's struggle amidst public backlash. For the record, there is no actual evidence of any of these threats. There's no record of it. It's all just what she said. Okay? So that's one. And I'm going to go to the other one because there's a relationship between these two. So you probably also know about this MS-13 gang member that was deported that the leftists losing their shit over. Okay. Anyway, this is the wife of that guy. So Jennifer Vasquez Sura, the wife of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, can't make that up. His name is Kilmar, spoke out about her husband's mistaken deportation, at least according to them, to El Salvador in several recent instances, with the latest interview reported on April 19, 2025 by The Guardian. Vasquez Sura expressed relief upon learning that Garcia was alive after a Democratic U.S. Senator met with him in El Salvador, despite the Trump administration's social media claim that Garcia is never coming back to the U.S. She rejected the administration's portrayal of Garcia as violent, addressing a 2021 protective order she had sought against him by explaining it stemmed from a difficult period in their marriage and they overcame it through counseling, resulting in a stronger partnership. Vasquez Sura emphasized that Garcia was not charged with any crime and was picked up by federal agents during a routine traffic stop in Maryland, underscoring the lack of evidence for claims of gang affiliation. Her statements reflect her ongoing fight to bring Garcia back to their family in Maryland amidst legal battles and public scrutiny following his deportation on March 15, 2025. So what do these two stories have in common in terms of not the events, because I know that that's being talked about, but in terms of the way that they are being covered by the press, by the media? What are they using to essentially make their case? I think it's...
I regret to inform you, gentlemen, women.
Yeah.
And in terms of Carmelo Anthony's family, particularly the woman in question, has anyone in that family said sorry yet? I realize it seems to be the hardest word sometimes, especially if it's being demanded of you, but I don't think anyone's even demanding it. I don't remember anyone asking you people a goddamn thing. Nevertheless, a quick my bad wouldn't go amiss. Yeah, and by you people, I mean the kind of people who raise a wanton murderer and don't feel in the least bit fucking bad about it. It seems to me the only word that should be coming out of your asses is sorry. But holy fucking shit, they're saying everything but sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Moreover, they're the ones demanding an apology from the whole world for the distress that's descended upon them as a result of their demon spawn fucking murdering someone. You can't imagine what it's like to have death threats against your son. Bitch, are you for real? There's one guy out there who can imagine it. His son got a death threat for a fraction of a second before he got stabbed in the heart. He's the guy who should be demanding an apology, but he's not. He's already forgiven his son's killer. He's forgiven all of you. And then he turned up to a press conference that was open to the public. He turned up because he wanted to hear what you'll have to say. And you motherfuckers threw a wobbler and you had him kicked out of the press conference like he's the asshole. The mind boggles to think how fucking evil some people can get, how fucking topsy-turvy they can go. We thought we'd seen the lowest peak of upside down land, but good fucking Lord, talk about crying out in pain as they strike you.
Mm-hmm.
These cunts are crying bloody murder while they murder you. It's beyond the bully going, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? These professional victims, these industrial strength Darvo assassins, are using their own son to murder people and then going, why is your son murdering himself? Why is your son murdering us? Why are you murdering us? These are the worst people in the world. And when people like this are left in charge of a country, you get yourself an instant civil war and a double genocide and a failed state before you can say Wakanda forever. This family and their backward ass victim mentality caused this little shit to become a murderer. The next question is, what caused this family to become such a bunch of twisted psychos in the first place? Pardon. What gave them the impression that they can do whatever the fuck they like and still play the victim? And the answer is everything around them. The TV, the schools, the government, the fucking racist simps who sent them a ton of fucking cash. Oh, but some people on the internet lied about us. Boo. They said we bought a house when at the time we didn't even have access to the fuck knows how many millions of dollars with which we were rewarded for the murder of an innocent teenager. And yes, it's a fucking reward. You don't need that money for legal fees. He's 17. He's not going to prison. And his court hearing is going to be a pig circus like they all are. And the jury's going to do whatever it takes to not get murdered and not have their city burned to the ground. That's if there even is a jury. Whatever happens, he's going to be represented pro bono and he's going to get off scot-free. And you are going to spend all that money on a luxury mansion in a gated community, lowering everyone else's house prices while you terrorize the neighborhood with your machetes. You low impulse control, room temperature IQ, inbred, bucktooth, rapey ass pack of... You know what? I'm going to go with faggots. It's important that you use the words that they actually find offensive, not the words they pretend to find offensive so they can fuck you over. The more you know. All right, I should stop on that subject before I get us all killed. What else were we talking about?
I was this case, the MS-13 gang member guy.
Oh yeah, fucking
Kilmar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia and his wife Jennifer Vasquez Sura, which did not take his name, I guess. Kind of weird.
Yeah, and everyone's trying to get her to admit that he's a wife beater. Like, why is anyone even barking up that tree? I keep hearing commentators from across the political spectrum describing this man as a confirmed MS-13 gang member and possible wife beater.
Mm-hmm.
Need I remind anyone that a prerequisite for becoming an MS-13 gang member is murder? You need to have demonstrably murdered someone in the first degree in order to earn those tattoos. If you deign to adorn yourself with those tattoos without having provably murdered someone, you get murdered by MS-13. So yeah, he's a cold-blooded killer, possibly a serial killer, possibly a mass murderer, almost certainly exclusively of men. Yada yada blah blah yakety schmackety. And he raised his hand to a woman once. Maybe. Allegedly. I don't want to sound callous or anything, but at that point I struggled to give a shit. And I struggle to understand why anyone else gives a shit that the Bonnie, in a classic case of Bonnie and Clyde syndrome, experiences exactly what she expects to experience in a Bonnie and Clyde relationship. Yes, she probably did get beaten by this man, and yes, she is probably covering for him. But I would classify this as a footnote at best. It's not like this is Al Capone, and well, you can't pin him down on any of the gangster shit he did, so you have to resort to pulling him in on tax evasion. No, this guy can indeed be pinned down on all the gangster shit. Who the fuck do you think you're impressing by calling him an alleged wife beater on top of that? The left? You think you're going to get the feminist left on your side by throwing accusations of misogyny at this man? Mate. The feminist left is the oikophobic left, and they are the Bonnie and Clyde left. They are the people who send love letters to Ted Bundy and twice as many love letters to Luigi Mangione on account of he's not quite white. As long as he is a threat to the United States, he is a hero to these people. If he's a murderer, that just makes them wet. If he's a wife beater, that just makes them even wetter. These people are sick. They fantasize about man-made horrors beyond their comprehension, as long as those men are not their own men, the men they own. And I don't know who I'm talking to right now. I don't know who I'm trying to get through to. I guess it's conservatives. And I'm still yelling at a brick wall because so-called conservatives are just as gynocentric as so-called liberals. They can't help themselves. If the devil himself arose from the pits of hell and went about smiting the earth, the headlines on both sides of the aisle would be, the Prince of Darkness is bringing about the apocalypse. He's burning down entire countries with a click of his hooved fingers. And he said mean things about women. Grr, what a vagabond. Am I right?
Let's get him fired.
I despair. I really do. But I laugh as I despair. So it all balances out and it's fine. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you'd be right if you saw that it was women. So basically what I wanted to bring attention to is that both of these cases they don't look very good for, let's say, activists of either the black activist types for this Carmelo Anthony case, or this sort of pro open borders, anti sovereignty people on the left that are like all about like the immigrants or all about the brown people and the black people. It doesn't look good because these are pretty straightforward cases. In the Carmelo Anthony case, the self-defense thing does not hold up. Somebody but speaking of which, I got a super chat from someone named Bry O'Sullivan. Thank you for the super chat. And I'm going to try and read it and make sense of it. But he gave us £5 and said, Kilmar was on a plane alongside 3/4 of the passengers had not had due process and were not proven guilty of anything. Lazy journalism again. I'm sorry, I don't know what that means, but I read your super chat. Thank you for that. But this guy stabbed a guy in a tent at a track meet, which he felt like bringing a knife to. And I also learned that Carmelo Anthony, not that it matters, but I think it's relevant information. He does have a criminal record of sorts, so he's not like a completely clean, like innocent baby Aladdin that didn't do nothing. He definitely has a history, and it didn't look good. Like the courts will decide at the end of the day, however it goes. But the truth is, the optics were bad. So the media said, okay, let's go to his mother and put a microphone in front of her, because that's what they do, right? They want to eliminate any pattern recognition that people would have that have common sense, that are exercising their common sense. And so they put the microphone and the cameras in front of a woman that's crying or histrionic, and they have her tell her side of the story, and that becomes the story. And so Carmelo Anthony's mother got in front of cameras and said, "Oh, I'm getting death threats," even though, again, no police reports, no evidence of any of that. I looked into it. There's no evidence of any of those things, but she said it on camera, and so people will see it, and they will have the fifis for the woman that is crying for her baby who might go to jail because he murdered somebody else. But my point is not about the case, because however that goes is how it goes. My point is about how the media uses women and their tears to try to shift public opinion. And they did the exact same thing with this woman. They put her on in front of a camera. She was obviously being told what to say. Like, even when the host, who was very sympathetic to her, I can't remember the guy's name, but I think it was MSNBC, black guy. He's got a big gap in his teeth. And he was talking to her, and he mentioned that she had essentially, like, had domestic disputes with this guy. He's got the MS-13 tattoos on his knuckles, which tells you he killed someone, because that's how you get into the gang. And he had the tattoos, and people can't be copycats with that shit, because I lived in Chicago and I knew the Latin Kings. Well, I didn't know them, but I lived in a neighborhood run by the Latin Kings, and their rival gang, the Gangster Disciples, were on the other side of the park. And I could tell the Latin Kings when I saw them. Like, you knew, because they had certain tattoos. And if you didn't want to be somebody who wanted to look like them, because that put a target on your back if you were in the wrong neighborhood. And sometimes I would get jumped or chased because I came from a neighborhood that the Latin Kings were in, even though I wasn't in any gangs. So it's not really a good idea for people to do it if they're not legitimately doing it. And you can find pictures of this guy with his hands blurred out in the photo or covered up so that the tattoos are not showing, but he does have them, because you can also find the sort of edited versions. But the point is that what they're trying to do is make this man sympathetic, because that's all they have, right? When it comes to the immigration thing, when it comes to everything that's happened, because anything that Trump does has to be opposed by the media at every turn. So what they do is they try to humanize a story as much as possible to get people to side emotionally with whoever they need them to side with. And the best way to do that is to talk to a woman. And that's what they did. So this is what the purpose of me showing these stories is, not to talk about the stories themselves. I mean, I have my opinions on them and I think they're obvious, but it's not that, because everyone else has already talked about that. I'm trying to point you at the tools the media uses to alter public perception. And the best tool is a woman in despair, a woman in pain, a woman in fear, whatever it is. It's just like what Allison and I talk about when we talk about movies and TV. If you want a scene to have, like, more emotional impact when something happens, they cut to a woman's reaction to it, not a man. They cut to a woman's reaction, and that's how we know that things are more serious, more impactful. And so the media is just doing that with, these stories. So anyway, thank you for the super chat, Sullivan. I got one from Meredith G. She gives us a super chow for $5. Thank you. And she says the wife in the Kilmar Abrega Garcia was coached throughout all of her statements. When she was being interviewed, you could tell that there was an earpiece in her ear and her reactions were off. Yes, she is being handled for a payday. Absolutely. And when he put her on the spot about that like domestic violence claim or that it might have even been a what do you call it, like an order to like keep him away from her or something like that, she did not address it, and I could tell that she was afraid to say the truth. So she just said, he's alive, I'm just glad that he's alive, right? So I think that, you get involved, and look, I don't really have a lot of sympathy for her because she got involved with this guy. Like, this is the thing too about these women. If they date like psychos and murderers and gang members and sociopathic men, I'm not going to defend those men, but I'm not going to defend the woman either because they chose to like, be with these guys. And hell, she probably has kids with him. And they'll leverage that too. Oh my God, you're separating a father from his kids. Yeah, well, why did she make babies with a fucking murderer? Like this is like the thing that we have to like, talk about in an honest way. Like, women ultimately decide who they're going to be with. They decide who they reproduce with. They hold all the cards, man, all of them. So if they decide to do that, if they decide to make babies with a man who is unfit, you don't get to complain about that later. You chose this guy. Maybe he was the only guy that would give you the time of day. I don't know, but there is such a thing as women. They have a thing for violent men. Not all women, but a lot of women. They have a thing for violent men, murderous men.
It's not like they see them as unfit. They see them as fit because they're built for the Stone Age.
Yes,
in the Stone Age, men who could kill
might
anyone
makes
on,
right.
On set.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah. That's right. That's how they judge fitness. Like in like low income communities, where the hypergamy points towards essentially the guy that can do the most violence, not necessarily the guy that's the highest status or makes the most money. Although often got times in lower like income areas, the guy who is the most violent also has the most money. So like he's like the gang leader, the drug dealer, the pimp, whatever, and those are the guys that usually have multiple, baby mamas, and those women know that and they don't care, So and I'm so like, yeah, it's just the way that it shakes out in those environments. But all right. Let me see. I think that's it for that story. That was the main thing I wanted to talk to you guys about with regards to those two stories. And we did all right. 2 hours, or no, sorry, 1 hour and like 10 minutes. A little shorter than normal, but Hannah's not here to give her usual commentary, so I guess that is going to make the show shorter. But let me just make sure I didn't get any more super chats or anything. I was also going to mention another story related to the oh shit, I can't. Oh yeah, right. Did you guys? Okay, maybe I'll just mention it really quick. You guys know that the what's the guy that runs the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, stepped down?
Yeah,
and they got a new
replaced
guy
with a different Bond villain with a fucking laser eye or some shit.
Yeah, this guy. Yes, they did. Yeah, they literally replaced him with Lashif from fucking Casino Royale, like a different Bond villain. So this is the new guy. Klaus Schwab is out. This guy is in. Meet Peter Brabeck Letmath, former CEO of Nestle. I was like, what? Who famously stated in 2017, humans have no right to access free water. Be careful what you wish for.
Splendid. This is fine. This is fine.
Like laser eye. Anyway, so yeah, that happened, and I thought it was really funny. So we'll see what new devilry comes out of the World Economic Forum now that they have this new Blofeld in charge. All right, but anyway, with that said, we're gonna go into the patron show and take a look at this article. Gen Z women are choosing older men over guys their own age, and it's not because they're sugar daddies. and we're gonna look at this. And if you want to join us for that, you have to become a badger by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe to start a monthly subscription. So you can watch all the additional content, and you'll get access to our very lively and active and room-filled Discord server. So please consider joining. If you just want to look at the Discord server for free, go to badgernation.online and check it out yourself. So with all that said, I want to thank Mike for joining me. I want to thank Mike J for helping me with the write-ups for the show topics today. And I want to thank you guys most of all for watching. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we will talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude, okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.